So Packet Tracer is an application that if I said I used extensively, I would be lying, but it's actually a really cool application. So I was introduced to it through school labs and all. And basically what it allows you to do is logically lay out networks. So you have different components you can put together, wire them up in certain ways, but a lot of the material or tutorials talking about it are either outdated or apparently not that good. I've only seen like from one channel and that one's somewhat outdated. So this my intention is to basically shore up that one and actually in possibly some cases kind of clear up some of the interface confusions that I had myself as I was working through things. So kind of the first little bit in overview is you've got the basic interface pulled up right here. You've got your basic file and whatever bar. Tooltips kind of tell you everything that you need to know about what something does. Well, a short description of it. But then the toolbar below here is basically your actual, like, I'm working with the thing tool here. I never really, like, messed around with the physical tab too much. It was mostly the logical, but the tools here kind of apply to that. You've got your select tool, which lets you select and drag a box. It'll select multiple things, inspection, delete, get rid of something, or your resizing. Oh, these ones are more for the artistic type of people. Whether you want to place a note like saying, logical router. It's going to be a little bit different. Like for you, it's going to appear different because of the way that my computer's set up, depending on how you have yours set up too. So it'll drop that there. And then I can take the line tool. Gives you a bunch of nice options. I can draw lines to, if I were, let's go back over here and delete those. Come on, buddy. Oh, it's confirming my delete. Yes, delete. Okay. I don't know. The delete dialog, look for it if it doesn't pop up in front of it, everything. So you can take the line tool and basically like mark out here. So like here's my internal network. Here's my DMZ, and then here's the rest of the internet that I don't want coming in to my internal network. So you've got that option. You've also got the boxing option. So you can do no fill, pure outline. You can select your colors if you want to. Oh, with the UI framework that it's using, it should be the same across operating systems. So yeah, you can draw the box here. So that indicates your DMZ right there, or you can use a circle and indicate the internet out here. Or if you're really horrible, what was that one again? Draw freeform. You can just, do a doodle there and it works. So those are your basic ones. It kind of helps with like logical organization. So you can put things into its box or between lines and put your firewalls on like the lines as the guardrails against things. So, but since you're mapping out networks, how do you logically do that? Or what kind of tools do you have at your exposure to do that? Like, it's nice that we have boxes, but this simulates networks. How do we do that? So you've got your components here. So you've got these different categories. So you've got your network devices, end devices, components, connections, and like your miscellaneous stuff. And each of these, as you select them, will actually change the subcategories down here. And it'll, of course, change over here. But so in your network devices, you've got your routers. So they do not have a wireless router in here. That's over later. Switches. So if you've got different network configurations that you're trying to plot out for like your home network or whatnot, you've got that. You've got your hubs, which probably may not use, but you do have a repeater in here. Here are your wireless devices. So your basic home router. Let's see what model. They don't tell us there. You've got your WRT300N wireless router. They even include a cell tower for 5G purposes if you're really that inclined. You've also got your security stuff, which, again, I haven't dove too much into. I would assume firewalls. So don't quote me on that. And then you've got your WAN emulation, or your ISP connecting into your network through whatever endpoint you decide that is. So you've got the general cloud, you've got whatever, your DSL modem or your cable modem. So those are your like network end devices. So if I were to do a basic one, we'll put a router here, and then maybe we'll go over to the wireless and drop a router here. Cancel. We will grab a switch and pop it in here so that we've got that. And then let's just drop a cloud in just for fun. Okay, so we kind of move these over because next is our end devices. So these are in a few categories. The first one that's going to come up is your standard end devices. Your computers is what that means. So and also your IP phones. So TVs, tablets, because TVs and tablets are now part of your end device network too, and your smartphone. So that's why we use that wireless router here. You've got your sniffer and so on, because you're trying to inspect your packets coming in and out and so on. So your server, I think, is pretty basic. And then you've got maybe your laptop and your PC. So these all have interfaces of their own that we're going to kind of go over too. But Packet Tracer does have stuff for if you're laying out a logical network of your other home devices as well. So if you're trying to design your own smart home, you can do that as well. They even include the solar panels. But they also include your smart city stuff, so your ceiling fans and whatnot that are laying around as well, your smart LEDs, RFID readers, industrial, and then your power grid. I mean, solar panels, like we've seen that like 5 times, batteries, blowers, and then like wind turbines. It's just kind of sad they don't include the birds to kill with the wind turbines. One interesting thing, too, I found is that you can actually logically lay out a board as well. And what? You can lay out your integrated circuits and basically make a single board computer in essence. You've got your microcontroller board, oh, let me pop that out. Oh, it's, okay, so they include a microcontroller board or an SBC board. So like whether it be like your Raspberry Pi Pico or your Elite C microcontroller, they've got that, or you've got your SB single board computer board, whether it be like your chip or your Raspberry Pi, Orange Pi, Rock 64, what have you. So let's get rid of that. Yes, I want to delete the SBC. Thank you. Let's go back to the normal mode. You've got your different sensors here. Yeah, actuators. Heating element, LCD, blah, blah, blah. So some of them are somewhat like display output, but there are all output motors. And then your sensors here, this is the right category. So again, if you're laying out inputs for your single board computer, you've got that option there. So this is the one that is kind of like going to be the meat and potatoes of probably most of what you're going to be working with laying these things out, is the connections. So let's put our server up here, our wireless router here. So you've got an automatically choose connection type. So it will basically pick the best fit for the connection that you are using. So to use this tool, what we do is we take this, we click here, and you see it gives us a line once we click on that, and we click that there. So you'll see what happens here is we've got two red down arrows. And that basically means that the connection is down. There's like nothing going on. So this is what the interface looks like when you're looking at it, but I'm not going to dive into that just yet, actually. So you've got that laid out there, and we can go in. We can, oh, the cloud doesn't really give us anything too much. So you've got a couple options there. You've got your console cable, which is basically like that old serial cable, or in some cases your rollover cable. Then you've got your copper straight through cable, which is your basic, plain old patch cable. So we can go to fast Ethernet, and then fast Ethernet. So that'll connect up. So you notice we still have the red arrows. We will actually solve that later on. So then you've got your crossover cables for like if you're linking two PCs together. So like let's take our two PCs, and then we can do a crossover cable between the two of them, and then they're connected in a network. And you notice that it actually shows up with two green arrows, and that means that they're connected and are networking together, basically. We don't have, or are capable of it, of communicating. They're doing some basic communication. Some things do require like enabling certain ports and whatnot in packet tracer, but yeah. Fiber, I think you know that by now. Phone lines, your coax cable for like your cable modem, serial DCE, and then so two different serial cables. I'm not sure what the difference is, honestly, but yeah. And then your octal cable, your IoT custom cable, because we're going to be vague about it. And then your USB cable, because as you saw, when we bring up a dialog, we can select which interface we want to plug into. So we are going to network up our stuff together. And let us put that on the internet one. It's going to be kind of weird. So you'll notice like the orange dot here. It's kind of like I'm connected on my end, but I'm not sure what to do per se. So, I mean, it's communicating, but it's not at the same time. And you'll notice that it blinks on occasion as it does it. So there's something going on. So it's something on the switch end that we haven't configured that it's having issues with for the most part. So we will leave our laptop be, and then we'll connect you to the PC over here. Okay. So finally, then you've got some structure cabling, of course, for building stuff, for physical stuff, which if we, it enables in the physical panel over here. So now we've got our miscellaneous stuff, which is a couple more things: wireless laptop, wireless PC, and then multi-user stuff. So these stuff I haven't really dove too deep into due to labs and whatnot, but this is our basic configuration. You can see that our switch is now fully communicated with server and the router over here, and the router is fully communicated with PC as well. So if we mouse over it and pull up the tooltip, you'll see that we've got a lot of things, but nothing set. So to mess with our settings, I think we're going to work with the switch first. So the interface in here is decently organized, I guess you could say. So you've got different modules, which I haven't messed with too much. These are pretty much, I believe, going to be your hardware modules. And what? I don't think it tells me too much about what's plugged in where. but it does give you some information about what each piece does if you click on it. So our config is kind of where like the big meat and potatoes of like making things work happens. So you've actually got, depending on the device, a command line output down here in essence. And this basically simulates what you interact with in firmware, whether it be via PuTTY, screen, some sort of console interfacing software that displays the commands and lets you put commands in. So it will, if you pay attention to that dialog, it will tell you what those commands are as you're going through the settings up here and messing with things. So we can change our host name from switch to S1. And then when we click away, what it does is you'll see it goes enable, configure terminal, or conf t for short, and then host name S1. So that shows you the different commands that get put in down there if you pay attention to that, and it may help you understand what's going on when you mess with it up here and then go down here to look down here to see what it's doing. You do have the option of messing with the command line directly in the CLI tab. So you can put those commands in manually and then it'll reflect in the config tab over here. And then here are your attributes. It lists different things about the hardware that you're looking at. So you've got, again, different settings. You can set up your VLANs this way, and it's going to kind of go through, and the terminal down here is going to show you different things. So if I go into the fast Ethernet section here, it will open up the interface down there, and then I can change the mode to trunk or access. Let's go to this one. So we're in 5-1. So it gives you options to disable certain things. So I can put it in half duplex and it will reflect it in here. I can limit it to 10 megabits per second. It'll reflect it in here. I am going to put those back on default and leave those as auto. And then we can change our modes per port in this similar way and whatnot. And it will reflect that down here. And again, if you want practice with the command line, you can do those very same things here in this window, which by default is a white background with black text. And if you hate yourself, you can keep it that way. But you have the option to change it so that you're not horrible to yourself anyway. So that's kind of what the switch interface looks like when you're messing with it and where things are going to be at. One other thing, so the router is going to be slightly different. Again, it has its CLI interface, and then you can go over here and we can rename this one to R1. And it won't necessarily reflect on Packet Tracer's main interface, but you get the idea. You can name that stuff as you wish. So routers, of course, have different IP settings you can set, or routing. So for RIP settings, you can add your different network addresses here. So if I go 192.168.0.0, I can add that in, and now that's a network that I have enabled that RIP will look for in its or add to its routing tables. And then you've got your static routes and so on. So again, here your interfaces. Oh yeah, static. Yeah, that. You can, I believe it was, you can define specific IP addresses that it knows are on certain networks. So again, your Ethernet addresses. Can you mess with that? I think you can. Yeah, you can mess with the MAC addresses. So if you are really like hate yourself, you can do that. So here's where the IP configuration is. This is where it is. How did I connect that up? What are you connected through? Okay, buddy, give me the tooltip. Okay, so we've got, I think that's a normal. Okay, you need to go over here. Come on, buddy. Okay, so it's 0, 0. Okay, so in here, we can actually define a custom IP address that it connects to through our WAN. This is where this configuration comes into, and this is, you'll see it reflected down here as I do it. You can see changing the MAC address reflected in there as well. So what we can do is we can go, what? I don't think this one was reserved, was it? So we can define our address and then, yeah, Class A, I believe, because it's out in the great yonder. And it reflects it here. So these are the same commands that you're going to see on any other Cisco switch or router as well. And then our Fast Ethernet 1, I believe, was our next one, which is connected to it. So we can go, this is going to be, what's our switch over here? So we can make that, so we haven't defined an IPv6 address either. So that's there. Let's see. Don't necessarily need that. So if we go, we're going to go with the basic one. Actually, 10.90.30.1. Then we will make that a I think that's the wrong way, but you know, no, wait, actually. Let's do it the good way. Fine. Okay, so we've got 192.168.30 as our network. So we can go in over here. Do I have that turned on? No, so also remember to turn your interfaces on because that's why it's not communicating. So you'll notice it does no shutdown here. We're turned on, and actually what it should have done is it turns on here now. And we can go back into our Fast Ethernet over here. Also, make sure to remember to turn your interfaces on. Port status on. If it's not checked, then it's not on, and you've got a problem. So now we've got our green arrows turned on. So we are working properly here. So our server has a few more tabs than the router and the switch. Routers and switches will. We've got config, of course, and then services, desktop programming. Let's double check our wireless router. So again, it shows you the physical side here. We can go into config, has no modules to list. So our settings, let's see, we get that via DHCP. I don't think our router has DHCP configured, but that's okay. Our IPv4 IP configuration, we can keep that the same because then the wireless or whatever comes through the wireless router will be on a different network than whatever is otherwise. Then our wireless, of course, will keep that the same. So again, and then it simulates a GUI interface as well, so you can configure things that way as well, rather than through the console. So it kind of simulates a lot of the things in here to where you might actually do it in practice. And then again, our same attributes. So again, back to our server. It's connected to our switch, which is connected to our router, connected to the internet. So we can either get an IP address via DHCP or define one statically. Or this is our gateway in DNS, but you get the idea. If we go into the Fast Ethernet, we can do that. 30.2 because it's our server and nothing else should have an IP address that is that. Okay, so then, so we can define our IPv6 address if we really want to, but yeah. We do have our fast Ethernet on this, so it should be able to connect just fine. So our attributes again, programming. Again, didn't dive too deep into it. So our services, this is kind of the place that really kind of like what does what. So when you're going through this services tab, there may be certain parts where you're like, okay, how do I check like the syslogs, which was the really confusing part for me. So first of all, each one has their own little on-off thing. You can turn those on or off for simulating port security and so on. So you don't want anything turned on that you're not using, of course, like FTP or what have you. So the syslogs, if you are having like a router or a switch relay syslogs to another system, i.e. a server that is configured to capture syslogs, this is where you're going to look at that in. So the syslog service on this server is where the switch, the router, or any other hardware you have sending that system log information to is going to be sent to, and it's going to show up in here. It's not exactly perfect, but it does the job. So then you've got your AAA. Is that? I think that's your AAA records. NTP for time, email, FTP, IoT. I mean, if you know what you're doing, you've got it. The other thing that this has that's different from the others that we've looked at so far is the desktop. So it somewhat simulates a lot of the programs that might be found on a desktop. So like you can configure your IP from here rather than from the config tab. You've got your terminal, which basically says, hey, if someone wants to SSH in, these are the settings that I use, and or no. If you want to go into another system, this is the setting that you use. You're basically SSHing into another system. Can I open that back up? Yeah. That's what it looks like, but I may be wrong. Here's your command prompt. It's a basic DOS command prompt per se. So runs that kind of, you can run that kind of stuff there. You've got a web browser. So if you're simulating a web server, you can actually set up like the DNS and everything on a server, and then in another computer in the simulation, you can actually navigate to that URL that you set up in the DNS server, and it will actually show up here. You've got HTML and so on that you can set up as well. Your wireless settings, you've got no wireless interface. Let's see, communicators. Let's see, another. Oh, what was this? I don't remember. You can browse You can browse captured like intrusion stuff, I believe it was, with this. Let's see, traffic generator. Yeah, do all kinds of cool stuff with it. Let's see, manage your authentication crap, VPN settings. So you can connect to a VPN that you simulated here through the internet. Email, set up email box, and then look at it here. So you've got, again, simulated email. It's very, very in-depth. Point of entry. Oh, a basic text editor. It's not Vim, so, you know, firewall settings for IPv4 and IPv6. Let's see, NetFlow collector. Oh, here's your SSH. Duh. Okay, Telnet SSH. If you're using Telnet, then I'm sorry. You're going to sniff your own packets in the simulation, but you know what? Whatever. IoT management stuff, you know, who uses that? But anyway, that's basically what the server has. It's basically the same as what you're going to find on the normal desktop, except for maybe one or two things here and there, like the dial-up. Obviously, this one has... Obviously, they planned you to possibly mess around with dial-up. I don't know why. And Bluetooth as well. So let's see, Bluetooth, dial-up are our additional ones, and we are missing some small other management stuff that's found on the server. So there's that, and we can actually look at this here. But yeah. So that's the basic interface. Desktop, again, config. So for a PC like this, we can go into the config here and set our display name or host name, our IP settings. Let's see, can we get it via DHCP? Let's go into this. So it's going to grab everything via DHCP. So I believe this means that we did get an IP address from the wireless router here. So the next thing, finally, is our laptop. Dang. Do we have a wireless? We do not, apparently, for some reason. Let me pull out a wireless laptop. Where'd you go? You were over here. Config wireless 0. So where's our thing? So we go into here, we can connect to a wireless. Let's see, refresh. We should have our wireless network show up here. Here we go, connect. So we should be connected. It should. So it shows the wireless connection right there. So that's how wireless will show up in it. And it's not going to do like the goofy arrow things like over here, because that's the way they decided to do it. And you can see that we've got our network information here as well. So we've got our 0.100 on the PC, and we've got our 0.101 over here. Then we defined that statically. We defined those statically. And then I believe... Okay, so via our WAN link into the wireless router, we should, for completion, do that, and then it'll set our subnet mask automatically, and then our default gateway is going to be our router, and then our DNS server doesn't matter. So yeah, that's Packet Tracer. I know it took like a half an hour. One last thing though. So down here you'll see we've got real-time and simulation. So what these do, so in real time it's basically continuously, what's the word? Continually simulating what the network interactions. So if I went into here, and I don't think I have RIP. Let's open the command prompt and ping 192.168.0.101. You'll see that I get a reply back from it. So it pings that, so the packets move in real time. But if I turn on the simulation, it opens up controls, and what I can do is I can actually go and run the same command, and you'll see that it shows the list here, and I can actually step it by tick or by hops, and it'll show the path that it follows. So this gives away a lot of stuff for like the first lab that introduces Packet Tracer. And so you can see that it goes back and forth and comes back. And so it actually shows a lot of the interactions as well, so you can step it through and so on and so forth. But yeah, that's kind of Packet Tracer. You can filter it by editing the filters. So if I go and I filter down to ICMP, then I'm not going to see all the interactions that are going on as well. So like none of the ARP stuff is going to happen. So if I go through, it should have filtered. Did I not? Oh, I didn't turn off the IPv6 ones as well. Whatever. But yeah, you can filter it out and get rid of a bunch of them. Or I can just do that and not be dumb. So now we can go through and you can see it only shows the ping there. So those are the main tabs. And again, your log files, you're not going to see it so much down here. You're going to see it like over in the interfaces, depending on how you set it up. Yeah, that's Packet Tracer. It's a really cool cool application. Has a lot of cool things to it. It's just sometimes complicated, and a lot of the good stuff out there really doesn't go that into depth about it. Kind of like talking about marking out where things are. So whether you are wanting to draw your lines here or just all kinds of other inappropriate things in your logical mapping, you've got that option, and to logically lay it out in all kinds of like shapes. If you enjoyed the video, then like, comment, subscribe, feed the algorithm, boost the video up, share this video with your friends. If you found it informative or you just want to chat, I've got plenty of places in the description, Discord, Guilded, and what have you. Check those out, and I will see you guys in the next one.